Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. It is Jake Sanderson, aka Snowman Cycling, and I'm back once again with another race recap video for you. And it's one you definitely don't want to miss as I tackle Libby Hill after party on a ZRL recon race against the most stacked field I have ever faced off against. This is a who's who of killers in the B category as we tackle 5 laps of fan flats in Richmond, followed up by the Libby Hill KOM itself. And make sure that you stick around till the end of this one and catch the finish, because I promise you it's going to be one of, if not the most dramatic finish that we've had so far on the channel as we try and fight it out for the win against the best that BCAT has to offer. But before we get there, we've got 5 laps of fan flats to contend with, and each lap has one of these sprints that we're just about to hit now as the main difficulty each time we come around. And in a normal race, these sprints wouldn't be too much of an issue, wouldn't be too much of a difficulty for us to contend with, but these are ZRL recon races, and you all know what that means. It means that the segments in the ZRL races have fastest through the segment and first across the line. So these ZRL recon races have people who are going to be trying to simulate those efforts and go really, really hard on these sprints. So every time we do one of these sprints, every time we hit this segment on each lap, somebody is going to be pushing the pace really, really hard. So unfortunately for me, it's not going to be as easy as it would be if this was just a straight up scratch race. But it doesn't really change the tactics, because I'm just going to be trying to sit in, save as much energy as I can, and then go all in with one massive thermonuclear attack at the base of Libby Hill. So until then, it's about conserving as much energy as I can. But with the killers on offer in this race, that's going to be much easier said than done as we hit the second lap now, and the pace just doesn't ease up. I thought maybe after the first lap that everybody would calm down a little bit. They'd realise that they were going to save some energy. It's such a big group here that nobody's going to get away, which means, in my opinion, you're going to want to try and save that energy and not use it here. Although if you are doing a ZRL recon, this is probably the best bet, so I'll give them that. And what I will say is it would be better if they had the race numbers and race positions on for this race so you could see where you were against the other competitors. I can see that there's well over 100 riders in this race, but I'm not actually sure exactly how many there are. And that can make it a little bit tricky when you're trying to figure out a plan of attack and where to move up from in the group later on in the race. And when I said at the beginning that this was against the most stacked field of B riders I've ever gone up against, the reason that I know that is because when you have a look on zwiftpower at the results after the race, you can see how much your racing license gained in terms of points. You can tell from that the quality of the opposition that you are up against in that race. The lower the number and the more the gain, the harder the riders that you are up against. So we'll have a look at the gain that I got from this race and the riders that I was up against afterwards on zwiftpower. But I can tell you right now that this was the best result in terms of racing license number and the highest gain that I have ever had from any race in my over 500 events that I've done on Zwift. And that should give you just a tiny indication into the quality of this field, and it really did hurt. This doesn't look too difficult when we're watching it back, but these micro surges that are constantly going on every lap from the riders that are really good, really strong time trialists meant that it was a war of attrition, and those stronger riders are making everybody else work to be in this pack and be riding with them to try and get to the finish at a decent position. So there you have it. That's your pro tip for today. If you ever wondered why a race you were in felt so difficult, have a look at the quality of the opposition you were up against afterwards, and that might tell you why it was so hard. So as we make our way back around to the sprint once again, I'm wondering how many people in this group have got the same idea as me, that are keeping their powder dry, saving those watts, saving their legs for that assault on Libby Hill, where it's all going to inevitably kick off at the very end in the final kilometre. But not enough, in my opinion, as plenty of people are still pushing the pace on this sprint, and I'm still having to do over 400 watts every time we hit it just to keep in the pack. Energy that I could definitely be saving for later on. But that's probably the aim of those bigger TT style guys. They want to sap the energy out of the lighter, fast twitch guys like me. So I can't really blame them for making my life difficult when they can. And I just want to take a quick moment to say a massive thank you to all my recent and old subscribers and viewers for all your support, likes, comments. It makes a massive difference to the channel. I hugely appreciate it. And without it, this channel wouldn't have grown anywhere near the rate it has in the last couple of months. So really big thank you to you all. And if you're not subscribed yet, you've watched this or any of the other videos and you enjoy them, then please show your appreciation by hitting that like and subscribe button. Okay, so let's dive back into the action. We've got one more go at the Monument Avenue sprint that we've already done a few times, and then we've also got one go at the Broad Street sprint before we make our way to the base of Libby Hill. And as we do that, let's have a quick chat about ZRL itself. Let's talk about segment battle points. It's something that's been introduced, or at least was supposed to be introduced for this season. It's been delayed now. And these segment battle points are supposed to give everybody in the race, whether you're at the front of the race or the back of the race, a reason to be fighting so you can pick up segment points against riders of a similar ability to you in similar grouping. In theory, it sounds like a good idea. However, in practicality, in my opinion, it's far too complicated. It makes what is essentially a simple premise way too complicated. A lot of people don't want to look at 10 people who they're up against. They don't want to try and memorize names, see who's around them in the group. They just want to get on and have as good a race as they can, get their head down, finish as high as they can, maybe pick up a few segment points on the way. And I understand why ZRL wants to try and make it as accessible for as many people as possible. But in my opinion, it's a bit of a medal for everyone culture, and I just don't think that it's gonna work. I might be wrong. I know a lot of people like the sound of it. I know a lot of other people don't like the sound of it, and some people didn't even race ZRL this season because they thought it was going to be introduced. So what are your thoughts on it? Tell me, do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's going to make the races more exciting? Or do you think as well it's going to be a bit too complicated and a bit unnecessary? Let me know down below. And that brings us nicely to the final sprint of the race, the first time we've hit this Broad Street sprint. And again, people are going pretty hard. Nobody wants to go easy here. Everybody is trying to keep the pace up. So again, we're going to have to use a little bit of energy that we didn't want to have to use. But that's okay because we've got 5 kilometers of pretty easy terrain with a couple of rollers, a nice little bit of descent to try and get some recovery, spin the legs, get ourselves mentally prepared and psych ourselves up for one massive attack at the base of Libby Hill and try and give these big, heavy sprinters who've been pushing the pace every lap on every sprint a taste of their own medicine a la Snowman style. And if there's one thing that I do well, that I have as what you might call a specialty, it is go uphill as hard as I can for 1 minute. I'm a lightweight guy. In this video, I'm only 60 kilos, and we're going to attempt to use that and try and give ourselves the biggest advantage we can and try and get over that line first. So this is probably the perfect race finish for me. If you asked me to set up a race finish in advance, I'd probably give you this exact course. And that means that I'm really going to put the pressure on myself here to try and get a good result, even though we're up against an insanely stacked field. And as we get to within 1 kilometer of the start of that climb, it is on. There is no respite here. People are going to be pushing the pace. We have to make sure nobody gets away. And as we get to the base of the climb, all hell is about to break loose. And I make a little bit of a mistake here. I'm at the pointy end of the race. I'm at the front where I need to be. But I should have launched it there. I should have gone as hard as I absolutely could. Instead, somebody else ignites the touch paper first and they launch it off the front at 11 watts per kilo. It is on. Now, I promised you drama, and there will be drama at the top of this climb. As we can see, there are some really strong riders pushing orange numbers, and they're going to be pushing orange numbers for the entirety of this climb. So I'm going to have to try and settle into a rhythm. I know roughly the sort of power I can hold for this duration, and it's going to be a balancing act between trying to hold that target power and also closing the gaps to those wheels ahead. Those riders are just a little bit too far ahead, and they look to be pulling away as we come into the second half of this climb. And I realized this is it. I'm going to have to launch it with everything I've got if I want a chance at the win. And so I send it full launch as I power around the riders next to me, and I do my best to reel in those front 2 riders as I really empty the tank with every last watt. Managed to come around the rider in second place and get onto the wheel of the rider in first place, but I just run out of road as he pips me to that first place finish across the line. So let's have another look at that one again, see exactly how close it was, and we can see that not launching it at the very base of the climb maybe cost me the win there, because it was only a fraction of a second that rider beat me to the line, and he's the one that launched it at 11 watts per kilo from the base. So it's hard not to feel disappointed with that one, like I didn't have another extra watt or 2, or I couldn't have launched it a little bit earlier. But you have to say, fantastic job to the rider that won it. He played that to perfection. He launched it at the exact right place. And what we couldn't see there, that I could see on the results afterwards, that first and second place rider were brothers who were on the same team working together. So I can't really be too disappointed with that, even though I was in the moment because that is racing. Sometimes you're going to win by a fraction of a second and sometimes you're going to lose by a fraction of a second, but that's what makes it so exciting. So I hope you enjoyed that one. One of my most memorable races. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see the actual ZRL race. See if we can go one better than we did on the Recon. And thanks again everyone for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you like, comment, and especially subscribe. Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links below in the description. And remember, most importantly, race fast, ride hard, and that you are appreciated.